Hey guys, hi everyone. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Hello guys, hi everyone. Good evening. I hope I'm audible as well as my screen is visible. Is my screen visible, guys? Hi, good evening. Good evening, guys. Good evening, everyone. Hey Srinivas. Good evening, everyone. Hey Ozair. Hi, good evening. Good evening, guys. Where are rest of the students? So we are currently discussing what's our batch. It is PGP March, right? And we are currently in CSS. So let me try to quickly open this CSS folder inside VS Code. In our previous discussion that we had on Thursday, I guess, we discussed few very important concepts, right? We understood what layout actually means. And whenever you go on internet, whenever you see any website, and you think that you want to create clone of it, automatically the first thing that you should come in your mind is what is the approach? Are the elements in that parent oriented in a single one-dimensional layout or two-dimensional layout? If it is one-dimensional, in that case, we will go and use flexbox. But if it is multi-dimensional, in that particular case, we are going to use our grid, right? And we have seen that in the previous session. And when you look at your layouts in that manner, that I want to understand, not I want to create this layout not just by looking at the buttons and the text, but I first want to understand how these elements are arranged in a parent. If you start looking at the website from that perspective, you will be able to create any kind of layout. Yes, there might be some small upper niche things, but maximum things you will be able to create. Okay, so that's the approach. I'm pretty much sure until now, if you even knew HTML, you were not familiar with this approach. But this is one of the most important things that you need to keep in mind, that we have to understand from the parent and child perspective whenever we talk about a website. Now, over here in this case, and then whenever we talk about parents, there are two ways how an element might be arranged. One is one dimensional, another is multi-dimensional. And in this particular case, we discussed multi-dimensional with respect to grid. Now we have seen what are the different properties of our grid. We have understood that all we need to do is we need to simply have a parent in which we will simply have our children's, and then we simply need to tell it how many columns we want, what should be the width of each column, how many rows we want, what should be the height of each row, right? And we also saw align items, justify content, similar to what flex in flex we discussed, right? Today's class is actually about Bootstrap. We have to learn what Bootstrap is, and of course, like it's not like only one class is enough to learn Bootstrap, but I will still try my best to give you the complete idea of like why we will use Bootstrap and how we will use Bootstrap and why it's important, to learn. Although if you ask me, I would say do not use Bootstrap even for next 1 year. After that, you can use other frameworks, Tailwind, Bootstrap, Material UI, or whatever you want to use, but later on. Address Media Query, unfortunately, we don't have, but I don't worry. I'm here. I will teach you that. Today, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, I will teach you that, Nitish. Don't worry about it. Okay. Now, let's try to understand few very important things related to grid. If you look at the layout which we have right now, you can clearly see it is 3 column, 3 row structure. But that is not how we would want to create an application. That's not how we would want to arrange an elements. Like simply 3 rows, 3 columns, 2 rows, 2 columns, or 3 rows, 4 rows. No, 3 columns, 4 rows. No, but maybe one item will be spanned to multiple rows, multiple columns. Like for example, if I simply go talk about an example from the internet, grid layout, example like this. Okay, if I go to images, let's suppose we are going to create this particular layout, this one. Okay, I want to create this layout. Now, if you look at this particular layout, can you guys tell me how many columns are there? How many columns are there? We have 1 column, 2 column, 3 column, 4 columns, right? How many rows? 1, 2, 3. But if you look at one of the items over there, it's expanding more than one grid line. It is starting from 2 to 6, 2, 3, 4. Then in a similar way, 1 to 4. And we have discussed grid lines in the previous session. Have we guys discussed that? Have we discussed grid lines in the previous session? No, we have not. Okay. Now, row span, call span is with respect to tables, not with respect to grid. So let's quickly understand. Allow me a second. I will just connect my charger because I have not connected my charger to laptop, and then we'll start. If we have not discussed grid lines, let me quickly teach you what grid lines are. So let me go here and let's try to open quickly that whiteboard. Allow me a second. At the first workspace. Why is it taking this much of time? In the meantime, if it does not open, I can use my open board. Perfect. Now look at this. Whenever we create any layout, okay, this is my parent. Now in this case, I am going to talk about 3x3 layout, which I created right now, like this, like this, like this, like this, like this. If you remember, in your flexbox, we talked about two axes. What were those? Main axes and cross axes, right? And we discussed that whatever the flex direction of my items are, that's what the main axis is. It's not like x axis, y axis. It depends on the flex direction. Over here, we don't have those two axes, but we have grid lines. So this will be my first column line. This will be my second column line. This will be my third column line. This will be my fourth column line. So over here, when we talk about this, this is going to be one line. I think I have already discussed this. Column 3, column 4. In a similar way over here, this is my row 1 line. This is my row 2 line. This is my row 3 line. This is my row 4 line. Now, at this point of time, can I say this element 1 over there? Actually, if I have to understand like what is the position of this item inside this grid, I can say it starts from column 1 to column 2, and then it simply starts from row 1 to row 2. Is that what the position of this element is in this grid? Yes or no? Can I say that? Of course, yes. If I talk about this particular item, fifth one, so can I say its position is column 2 to column 3 and row 2 to row 3? Can I say that? Of course, yes. Now, what I want to do is I simply want to make sure that this item is expanded to this much. So this is what the position of this item has to be. Like I don't want it to simply take only this much of width, but it should be expanded from here to here. So can I say in that case, simply it's row 1 to row 2 still. But with respect to column 1, it's column 1 to column 3. Can we say that? Of course, yes. So it means that whenever we talk about any layout, if I have to talk about this particular cell, it's simply row 1 to row 4. So somehow we have to tell it whatever item we want to arrange in a particular box. All we need to do is we need to tell it what is the row line of it, what is the column line of it. If we are able to control that, we will be able to create any kind of layout inside our web application. Any kind of layout inside the parent that we actually have. Let's understand the same thing over here. See, let me create a very new file, although let's have the same file because we don't have that much time, unfortunately. So let me have the same file. I have right now, if you look at it, I have the background color added below for each and everything, right? But what I will do now is I will simply go give it them different class names. Now you will say, sir, why are you giving them unique identifiers? The reason is, if you look at the layout that I asked you to, that we will be creating, that I said we will be creating, if you look at that particular layout, this one, look at this. This is the layout that I'm trying to create. I have to tell it for this item, it has to start from here to here. For this item, it has to start from here to here, which means now to expand an element with respect to rows or columns, we have to target that item individually first. Yes or no? Right? We don't have to reach to that element from the parent perspective, but we have to make sure that we will actually talk about that item in the isolation form, in the independent form. So we will, that's why we'll simply go and tell it, hey, for item 1, do one thing for item 1. What do we want to do? According to this particular layout that I actually have, this layout. If you look at my item 1, This is, let's suppose, my item one, this one. Can I say column is exactly what it is here as well? In this case, column is exactly that. But with respect to my row, it starts from 1 to 4. Can I say that? Can I say that? And let me give it absolutely same. So let's see. Auto, not one auto, 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 auto. And let me also do here auto, auto, auto. Okay. Now, can I say over here with respect to this item, columns are same. Still, whatever you see over here, it's the exact same columns from column 1 to column 2, but from row 1 to row 4. But how do we target a column line or a grid line for an item? So we have to go to target that item. If we want to target its column, so it's simply column, grid column start. What's the property called? Grid column start. Then we simply have to give it a number. So what is the grid column start? 1. So I will simply go here, tell it 1. Done. In a similar way, I will simply go say grid column end. So I will simply go write grid column end. What is the grid column end? 2. Although you will say, sir, it was already 1 and 2. Why did you mention? Now, this makes sure it always stays 1 to 2. Maybe later on, I will change some other element that might force this item to change its position. Now, that won't happen. So, it will always fix itself column start to column 1. Now, I have put a nail on its corners. So, now I can simply say grid row start in a similar way as well. So, grid row start. So, what is the grid row start over here? Grid row start is 1. And then over here, I will simply go say grid row end. So grid row end is 4. Now, when I do 1, 2, 1, 4, it means I have fixed this corner, this corner, this corner, this corner of my first item. And you can clearly see that. Right? So 1 to 4. Now, what it has done is there were 2 items supposed to be here. Now it has taken their space as well. And you can clearly visualize now, since it has taken those 2 elements, so it's going to shift them to a next row and another row got created. According to this layout, how many items do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 4, 8. So let me remove one item over here. So I'm going to simply remove this one. So now I have simply 8 children over here according to the layout that I am trying to create. Now in this particular case, what am I going to do now? I have to target my second element. Can you guys tell me over there for second item, if I try to copy the same properties, so let me copy the same properties over here for item 2. Can you tell me what is the column start in this case? What is the column? Quickly. And also I will simply go give it background color is equals to green. Quickly, what is the column start? It is very good. 2. What is the column end? 3, 4, 4. What is it? 1. What is it? 2. And also the background color of this particular thing is green like this. So now that's if I go here, we can clearly see, although we won't be able to see this because this is like still the class. So that's why we have this issue. So let me remove this. Sorry, this is, can you guys tell me why is this green not getting implemented? Why is this taking over, precedence over here? Because this is 10 plus 1, 11. Specificity is 11. Over its specificity is 10. That's why we won't be able to have it like this. But let me remove this. So now when I remove this, now this is green, this is green. I hope that makes sense, right? In a similar way over here, if you now, let me keep the background color for visualization. Now, this is the layout that we want to create for item 3. Do we need to target for item 3? No, let's keep it, you won't go and change it one by one. You will simply target those items for whom you have to expand. Rest of the elements are going to take 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 is to 1. So you won't target this, although you can, but you shouldn't. But I need to target this one, which is the last element. So I will simply go here and say Control A, Control V, sorry, Control C. And this is my item 8. To the item 8, can you tell me, guys, what is the column start? 1, 2, 3, 4. The column start over here is 4. And what is it? It is 5. Then what is the row? Row is 2, 3, 4. And it's simply going to be equals to 4 like this. And if I go here and try to refresh my page, we can clearly see our user interface which we wanted to create. Do we all agree? Let me try to go here and let me try to implement some padding. So padding of 20 pixels. And you can clearly see the layout which we wanted to create. It's exactly same layout. Same layout. How? Because we target its grid lines. So if you're able to visualize a grid with help of its lines, automatically you will be able to create any kind of UI that you want to create. Any kind of UI, and I mean it. I hope this makes sense. Am I clear? Am I clear? Yes or no? Am I clear? Done. Perfect. Now, if you want to create this layout, you will be able to create it, right? Of course, yes. This also as well. This also as well. So any kind of layout you want to create, it's simply about grid lines. It's about grid lines. It's about making sure that we will add grid lines like that. Okay. Now the same thing we will actually make sure that we will learn it in a better way. Same layout but better way. Whenever you are sure that you are going to use these two properties, grid column start, grid column end, there's a shorthand property for both, and it's called a grid column. And grid column simply says grid column start slash grid column end, which is 1/2. So now you don't need to write these two properties separately, but a single property, grid column. Why the first value will point to grid column start, second value will point to grid column end. I hope this also makes sense. In a similar way, if you are using these two properties, you can use a shorthand property in both cases. So I will simply go say grid row, and whatever the values are, it's 1:4. You can add 1/4. Now, if you even remove these two properties, it's one of the same things, and you can still see the same output. So, what is grid column? Grid column is a shorthand property of grid column start and grid column end. Grid row is a shorthand property of grid column row start and grid row end. I hope this also makes sense. Another very important thing that when you guys, most of the time is when we are freshers, when we go in an interview, we usually watch very quick videos on the internet to help, right? In that case, if you go on any YouTube video, you will sometimes see people use grid column over here and write one slash, then write span, then span one. What does span one mean? That it means that it will start from line number one and then it will spread it to one more line. Span means spread, phalana. So it will start with one and then it will spread itself to one more. So which also means one to one is divided by two. Now over it, if I have to write it in a span way, I will simply say one slash span three. So from one span it more three. So two, three, four. I hope span is completely clear. Am I clear? Give me a quick yes or no in the chat, everyone. Am I clear? You might see span as well. Yes or no? Perfect. Can you repeat? Let me repeat. Whenever we talk about our grid row and grid column properties, there, these both properties are shorthand properties of grid row start, grid row end. Like this, you can write it. If you want to write it, let me write it for you. It's taking too much time, my internet. Why is that? Am I audible? I think there's no internet issue, right? So if I'm audible, then why is it taking this bit of time? Okay. Now look at this. So over here, we have grid column property. Okay. First property that we discussed is grid column. Grid column is a shortened property of two properties: grid column start slash grid column end. Okay. And if I try to zoom it a little bit out, you can clearly see the property like this: grid column start, grid column end, right? Which means that if I go now, if I simply write grid column property like this, can you guys tell me over the if the value is 1 divided by 5? What does it mean? It means grid column start is 1 and grid column end line is 5. Yes or no? Right? But on the same time, can I say I am also telling it that start from line number 1 and then spread to 4 more lines and stop at 5. Is that what I'm trying to tell? Start from line number 1, spread this item to 4 more column lines and stop at 5. Can I say that as well? Of course, yes. which means I can simply write it like this as well. Grid column over here. Grid column is equals to 1 slash span 4, which means start from 1 and then separate it to more 4 lines, which is also 1 is to 5. So whether you write it like this or like this, it's one of the same things. I hope now it makes sense, Uzair. Give me a quick confirmation. Done. In a similar way, you can use the same thing, same logic for grid, row as well, grid row and as well, span. Now, another shorthand property. If you see, I am using 4 properties over here. These are 4 properties, right? Although I'm using 2, you can see I'm using 4 properties over here. Now, if I have to convert these 4 properties into 2, can I do that? Of course, sir. Grid column, grid end. And instead of these 2 properties, I will add grid column. Instead of these 2 properties, I will add grid row. Now, if you want to write all of the 4 in one, there's a property called as grid area. What's it called? A grid area. Grid area simply says grid column start or grid row start. Let us see that. And then grid column start, grid row start, grid column end, grid row end. So let me see that. So 2. Okay. Now, if I go to my document, is there anything happening? Let's see that. Yes, there's an issue, small issue. So what is it? It's item 2 wise B. So basically, it's not grid column start, it's grid row start. So grid row start is 1, then slash grid column start 2, slash grid row end is 2, slash grid column end is 4. Now, when I do that, you can clearly see my element is properly working over here. Now, what am I trying to do? Let me tell you here. When I talk about our property called as grid area, so grid area is a property, shortened property of 4 properties combined. Grid row start slash grid column start slash grid row end and then slash grid column end, like this. I hope this makes sense. Now, if you are able to understand this thing, na, that it is simply grid area is shortened properties of 4 properties combined, grid row start, grid column start, grid row and grid column end, it will automatically make sense over if you're trying to, pay attention over here. So see over here. So if you look at this, these 4 properties, now simply put these 4 values there. You can will automatically understand it. So even if I remove these items, the UI is still same. So if you look at the UI, it's still same. Still same. Am I clear? Am I clear with the grid area property? Yes or no? Done. Give me yes or no, everyone. Right? Now, do you want to hear one wonderful? Do you want to learn one wonderful thing? Although it's not in syllabus as well, it's not in. We don't have time for that as well. But who cares? Let's learn it. I'm going to go here, and I'm going to create another grid example. Now, I will teach you one of the very fantastic things about grid, which will make everything piece of cake. Okay, usually these things are not taught on YouTube. These things are not taught anywhere. Trust me, and I myself learned it after a lot of time, and that's why I'm going to teach you this. Okay, so I'm going to go here, and I want to create a layout. Let's go to grid layout here as well. So grid layout. Let me go to images. So I want to create a layout, maybe like this, or maybe let's use an easy example. So let me try to find an easy example. Not these many items. I want to wrap it up very quickly if I can. Okay, let's talk about this particular thing. You can see this layout, or you can see this layout. This is the layout that we want to create. Okay, header, content, footer. That's what I want to do. Maybe a layout that looks like this. Instead of showing it here, let me show it here. So I want to create a layout. This is my parent. Okay. Over here, I will have at the top, I will have header like this. Then I will have simply another element like this. Okay. Then I will have maybe another element over here like this. Like this. And then at the bottom, I will have layout like this. Now, do we all agree that it's a grid layout? Yes or no? It's a multi-dimensional layout. Do we all agree? Do we all agree it's a multi-dimensional? Of course, yes. And this is the layout that I want to create. Over here, let's suppose this should be my header. Let's suppose this should be my side nav. This should be my main content. And this should be my footer. So this is what I want to create. Now tell me how easy it is to create this particular layout. Very easy. Now tell me what is the first approach that you are going to do? What is the first approach? Come on, guys. Tell me in the chat what is the first approach. What do you mean by eating? Okay. So heading. Okay. So first of all, I will simply go tell it, hey, I have a div whose class is container. In this div, I have more divs, and their classes are at this point of time item, and I have 4 children inside this. So div class contain item this. For this, the class is going to be header. For this, the class is going to be side nav. For this, the class is going to be my main, and for this class is going to be my footer, like this. Okay. In this case, I'm simply going to go put some content as header. In this case, I'm going to put some content as side nav, like this. In this case, I'm simply going to go and put my content as main, and then over I'm simply going to put my content as footer. Perfectly fine. Now after that, let me go live with this particular thing, and please make sure that you have your layout now in mind. This is what we are going to create. This is what I have right now in the output. Okay. I will simply go implement my style. In this style, I will simply go target my container like this. And then over here, I will simply tell the width of this particular element is, let's suppose, 300 pixel. And height of this particular thing is also 300 pixel. After that, I'm going to go and rate background color is equals to black. And let's see that. And you can clearly visualize it, right? Although let's not use black, and let's say something like this. Okay, this is my background color. Now, what in order to align all these elements in a grid layout, what is the display property I'm going to use? Display grid. Now, as soon as I do grid, it will add some margin over here properly, and you can clearly see that, right? Now, quickly tell me in the chat, in order to create this layout, inside grid, I have to tell it how many columns, how many rows I want. So what's the properties I will use? What is the property I'm going to use, guys? Quickly. Why would I use position? Property. I don't need 3x4. I need properties. What is the properties I'm going to use? I'm not saying how many rows and columns I need. What is the property I'm going to use? I'm not going to move forward until then. If you're just here to learn, do not practice, then trust me, this batch, this course is not going to help you. You have to practice. It's not grid row, it's not grid column, it's grid template columns, grid template rows to determine how many rows and columns we want. Don't you think that that's what we used? Grid template columns and grid template rows to determine how many rows and columns we want. Now, why are you not able to answer? Because last time when you talked about grid, it was on Thursday, and now you are coming here. And in between, you have not worked on the grid. It's as simple as it is. And trust me, it's even if you don't work, I have absolutely nothing to do with that. But I know where you are. I have been there. So please and please practice. Okay? It does not matter how good I teach. It does not matter whether I teach all the concepts or not. It does not matter how much time I waste. It does not matter. Nothing matters. If you do not practice 2 hours a day, these things, even if you understand completely, won't matter after 2 days. So grid template columns and grid template rows will determine a layout that looks like this. So now tell me how many rows and how many columns do we have? How many rows and how many columns do we have? Now, if there are 3 columns, 1, 2, 3. So I'll simply go say auto, auto, auto. And let me implement a gap of 10 pixels. Done. Now, as soon as I do that, you can clearly see this is what my layout looks like. 3 columns, 1, 2, 3, and there's auto space as well. Now, over here, I will simply tell for my container, inside that, there's a div, and for those divs, please implement background color. Let's say background color is over here, brown. And we can clearly visualize our containers now as well. Now, quickly tell me over there, to create a layout like this, now we have to tell that how to arrange its grid lines, grid row lines, and grid column lines. I will simply go tell it for my header over here. For the header, please go use grid area property or grid column property. Let's use grid column. Grid column is simply 1/4. Yes or no? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 4. Row is exactly same, 1 to 1. So 1 to 4. Very good. Now, how do we target its height of a row? So I will simply say grid template rows. I will simply tell the first row is 40 pixel. Second row that we have over there is 100 pixel. Sorry. Second row is 150 pixel like this. And third row is again 40 pixel. Now, as soon as I do that, you can clearly see that I have three rows, header like this and this like this. Perfectly fine. In a similar way, I will now go side nav is at its position. I have to target my main. So I will simply go say main. For main, I will also go and say grid template, grid column. Grid column is 2/4. Now, as soon as I do grid 2/4, you can see I have my layout. And finally, I will simply go tell it the same layout. Please implement the same layout on dot footer like this. Now, as soon as I implement the same layout on dot footer, we can clearly see a layout that looks like this. Yes or no? Is this the layout that we wanted to create? Now you can arrange the text in between however you want. But this is the layout that we wanted to create. Yes or no? Give me yes or no. Right? Now over here, you need to see there's one small issue that we have. Not issue, absolutely you can create any kind of layout like this. Absolutely fine. But now if you look at it, I have to first of all see what is the lines, how lines are there, how where it from it's starting, how many grid template columns I have to create. I have to determine what should be the height of each. Everything is there. But now grid says don't do that. Instead of use grid area property. Now what does grid area property do, guys? What does grid area property do? If you remember in the previous case, grid area property is a shorthand property of these four. Yes or no? Grid row start slash grid column start grid row and slash grid column end. Shorthand property for both four combined. But grid area has one another functionality as well. Grid area is used to give name to the element, grid element. So I will simply give this header as a name header. After that, I will simply go, instead of this, I will simply go to give it a name, grid area. Grid area is equals to what is it? It's main. So I have given two names over there, one for header, one for main. In a similar way over there, another my footer. For footer, I will simply go say grid area, and grid area, let's say it is simply going to be footer. Done. Then what do we have? We have dot my side nav. For side nav, I'm also going to give it a name. So grid area, which is going to be side nav like this. So grid area and header, grid area main, grid area footer, grid area side nav. Now in this case, what I have done is I've simply given all the grid items inside container unique identity. A name, not identity, but name. That it's a name. This grid item has this name, grid item has this name, and so on and so forth. And right now, if you see, all of them are on top of each other. You can see that. All of them are on top of each other. Right? Now, over here, how do we create the layout that we have? We don't have to use this property. We don't have to use this property. So neither we have to tell it how many columns we want, neither we have to tell it what is the width of each column, neither we have to tell it how many rows we want, neither we have to tell it what is the height of each row. But in this case, in order to determine my layout, I have to use properties called as grid template areas. And in front of grid template area, simply mention that what is the layout that you want. So I will simply tell I need 3 rows. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I need 4 rows. Right? I had 4 rows. So if you look at this, can I say this 1, 2, 3, 4 rows? Yes or no? Right? Or even let's you will say, sir, it's 3 only. I will have 3 only. So I need 3 rows over there. In the first row, I have header, 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 because that's what the name of that particular item is. In the second, I have side nav, then I have main, I have main. In the third row, I have simply footer, footer, footer. So grid template area, since I have given them a unique name, now I'm telling it inside this particular container, create my rows, 3 rows, in which you will simply put the first row. The first row is header, second row is header, third row is header. In the second row, first column is side nav, second column is main, third column is main. Third row, footer, footer, footer. And now if I go to document, you can clearly see the layout that I have. How cool is that? Simply tell it what I want in this row. Simple as that. Am I clear? Am I clear? Yes or no? How easy is this? Now you will say, sir, do I need to write three? Does it mean three columns? No, 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 no. It means that you are creating a ratio inside the parent. I can also have over here header 5 times. Header, header. Now, if I am dividing my first row into 5 header instances, the second row in that case, according to the the layout that I have, it should be side nav, main, 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 and third has to be footer, footer over here like this. Now, as soon as I do that, you can clearly see it looks like this. Am I clear? Does it make sense? Like this is ratio, like how much you want in a single row. If I simply go say Control C, Control V, does it mean it will increase the height? Of course, yes, because that's what I did. I said that third row should also be like this. So you can clearly see now this and this. That's how it's actually making sense over here. Look at this. So whatever layout you want to create, create and arrange your elements in that particular case, in that particular row. Now you don't have to worry about anything. What is the grid line? What is this? What is that? Any layout can be created like this. You want over here main as well? I can simply go say main. 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 Now, when I say that, you can see now this is how it looks. This is the layout that actually we wanted to create over here, and how easy it is. I hope this makes sense. Am I clear? Shall I move forward now? Shall I move forward? So with this, we have completed our grid as well. And we have completed our entire CSS. Not entire, there are a lot of things in CSS which we have not covered because of the time constraint. But I will definitely suggest you to go and check some resources. You have not learned about background image properties, and you have not learned about transitions, you have not learned about animations, you have not learned about transforms, you have not learned about lot of things over there inside CSS. But I think it will be very easy for you to now, even if you go and read the documentation, it will be easy for you to go and understand the documentation, right? So please go through some resource on the internet to learn a few things. And as I said, I will media queries, I will teach you that as well. Don't worry about it. But since today's class is actually about Bootstrap, so that's why I'm going to put focus on Bootstrap. In the next class, maybe I will give 5 to 10 minutes on Bootstrap to quickly wrap it. Okay. Let's go here and let's try to create a new file with the name of bootstrap.html. Now, guys, what is Bootstrap? Let's try to understand that. When we talk about our CSS, we have a proper way of writing properties for an element. For example, in this case, I had a container. In this container, I simply had children's, and when I try to implement some style on this, I simply target the container with its class and implemented these properties. Let's suppose I will give a very simple example over here. You, as a developer, you thought, okay, I am having a class, and this class is simply, whenever I use container, I'm looking at a pattern that most of the time is 80 to 90% of time is whenever I use class container, I'm always using display grid with it. I'm always using gap 10 pixel with it. I'm always using width and height with it. So what I will do is I will simply have similar classes, container, divs, header, main, and so on and so forth. So I will style them. Now I will not implement them. I know what is the common style which I'm using in most of the cases. And I will simply create a file of that. And I will simply store it somewhere. Now later on, whenever I'm doing coding, if anywhere I need grid, I will not write my CSS again. But I will simply import that file but use only classes now. So on the element, if I need grid, I won't write grid property display, but I will use class container. That's what frameworks, CSS frameworks do, most of them. There's already a lot of CSS written on a lot of classes, a lot of identifiers. If you want the same CSS now, you will simply import the same file and simply use the same identifiers on the class instead of writing the CSS again. And since if file is already imported in your code, Now what you can do is you can simply go and implement the same identifiers on your elements, and it will simply make sure that style is implemented. Am I clear? Does it make sense? Does it make sense? Right? And one of the very easy frameworks, which is the OG framework, I would say original framework. When I say original framework, I mean the legacy framework, which is the oldest framework in CSS, one of the oldest, called as Bootstrap. What's it called? Bootstrap. Bootstrap. Okay. Now, if I go to Bootstrap, the website name is getbootstrap.com. And over here, you can install it as a module later on in React. But at this point of time, since we are not using NPM, we are using client-side scripting. We don't use NPM over there. So what I will do is I will simply go and include it with a link, include it with a CDN. Now we know that whenever we use link, we use it in the head tag, and it will simply allow me to link my Bootstrap. Now, what is Bootstrap? We will talk about that. There are two ways. Either you can download it, or you can simply link it like this. Okay. We don't know what Bootstrap means. We don't know what all of this thing mean. But all I want to make you understand is that let's try to understand the basic example of it, and then we will see XYZ things of it, like what Bootstrap is, does it mean to link it. Remember, I said that a few seconds back. Then what I will do is I will simply write my class name, is write my CSS on particular style, and I will store it in a file. And then later on, whenever I need this style, I will simply link it. That's what Bootstrap has done. So I will simply go here, read the installation docs, and over here you can see one of the options called as download. And let me download this. Let me download it. Then I will link it. First download, then I will link it. Internet is slow. I don't know why. Why is it taking this much of time? Okay, downloaded. Now we can see as soon as I did this, it did download me a folder in which there are two folders. Now Bootstrap is not just a CSS framework, it's a JavaScript as well. But we are interested in CSS at this point of time. So let me simply copy this, and I'm simply going to go inside my folder here. And inside this folder, I'm going to simply paste it. Let me paste the folder. So let's see if I have pasted it somewhere. I did paste it. Why is it not pasted? Pasted. Let me copy this. Sorry, it's not extracted. Since it's not extracted, so I won't be able to directly paste it. So let me paste it here. CSS and Control V. Perfect. Now we can see I have downloaded the Bootstrap folder. Now I don't know what it is, but let's see what it is. So over here, if I try to open it, if I try to open CSS, you can see a lot of CSS files here. So if I try to expand it, you can clearly see a lot of CSS files. Let's suppose I'm interested in this bootstrap grid.css. It's a CSS file. Do we all agree it's a CSS file? Of course, yes. And you can clearly see inside this CSS, there are already a lot of classes written, like row, then we have call, then we have row calls. It means whenever I need a style like this, all I need to do is I need to link this with my HTML file, and I need to use a row class on my application. Yes or no? Is that what I need? Of course, yes. So CSS is already written. All I need to do is I need to use this class on my HTML. So this is called styleless coding. Like I don't have to write styles explicitly, but I have to simply link my file over there, and then it will simply go and it will simply implement the style. Let's say a very simple example. You can, of course, go here and you can update your style as well if you want. It's completely up to you. But what I will do is I will simply go to bootstrap.html and let me get the boilerplate like this. In this boilerplate, I will simply go, since how many times will you download it? It's a very heavy folder as well, and you should not download it. If you want your CSS, you can simply copy this link. It will simply go here and simply paste it like this. And once you paste it, you can clearly see you have actually linked bootstrap.min.css with your this particular file, which is bootstrap.html. Now over here inside this since I know there's some CSS written in it, I don't know what that is. But now what I will do is I will simply go say h1. In this h1 tag, I will simply go write Adfar Sahab. Okay, Adfar Rashid. If I go live with this particular file, we can clearly visualize Adfar Rashid in the output. But now I want to implement some style. Since my bootstrap is linked, I know that it has already some CSS in it. So what I will do is I will simply use a class. For example, I will simply use a class called as container. Now, as soon as I do container, you can clearly see style wise some change happened. Yes or no? You observe that, guys? Style wise, some change happened. Although maybe you were not able to understand what it did, but some change happened. So basically, what it did, it added actually margin auto. Margin left side same, right side same. It simply made it kind of centered. Instead of container, I will simply say BG primary. Now, as soon as I do that, you can clearly see for this particular body over there. So let me remove this Control X and let me put it only in the H1 tag. So for this H1 tag, some background color automatically came. In a similarly, I will simply go say BG danger over there. Now, as soon as I start using these class names, you can see, sir, I have not implemented some style, and yet I am able to see some style getting implemented. That's what framework Bootstrap is. That there's already a lot of CSS written over here, like this. You can see that there's already a lot of CSS written, and all you are doing is you are simply going there and implementing it, downloading it in your folder. And what you are doing is you are simply using the class names now to implement the style. This is what Bootstrap does. Simple as that. Now, the challenge over here is that we have to remember class names. Now it's limited. Now when I say limited, see, I will tell you, when I was learning HTML back in 2016, I guess, and 2017 around that, and when I learned about this Bootstrap, I was too much excited. I was too much happy, honestly, that there's already a lot of work done related to CSS. All I have to do is I have to import the class names and I can create a portfolio of mine. I was very much excited. And at that point of time, AI was not there. So it was a big deal, right? Nowadays, it's not a big deal. Like no one learns Bootstrap right now. Very minimum people. Very minimum people. Tailwind is used most right now because it has most number of transitions and all those things. There's better options there in Tailwind actually. If I compare it with Bootstrap, now what I'm trying to tell you is that when we use Bootstrap over there, you are restricted to class names. How many class names are you going to remember? Now you will say, sir, why would I need to remember the class names? I have to go to documentation, which means that you are relying on external tool. And also, when you talk about the Bootstrap, your CS is limited. Like you are not able to control everything. You don't know. You will say, sir, what I will do is I will simply go, if I need any change, I will simply target this class and implement the change. Of course, yes. But for that, you need to check what is its original code. You need to check what is the original property that it holds, and so on and so forth. And then accordingly, bring the changes. So there's too much dependency when we depend CSS wise on frameworks. When you depend on Bootstrap, when you depend on Tailwind, it's all about class names and using it. And as a web developer, whenever you work with an application, most of the times you would want that you will actually control everything in your project by yourself. Right? Is that what we would want as well? That we want to control everything from A to B ourselves? Of course, yes. That's what everyone wants. Now let's learn a few of the very important features. Now I have to see, sir. I remembered what container does. I remembered what BG primary, BG danger does. But what else can this Bootstrap do? For that, you need to go to docs. There are a lot of components already created. Let me give a very simple example. And when I saw this example first time, I was very happy. You can go here to the components, leave this layout for a second. We will come to this layout later on. But I will go to this components. And over here, I will simply go to a component called as Navbar. Now, in this Navbar, you can see that it has given you documentation that .navbar will simply give you the Navbar class. It has this style, it has that style, and so on and so forth. Now, over here, there's also components created. If you want a Navbar to look like this, all you need to do is you need to copy this code, go into your code. Since Bootstrap is linked, paste the code. That's it. Now, as soon as I do that, you can clearly see Navbar already created. So in your project, there's already a Navbar created. Already Navbar created. Is it responsive? If I go to inspect, if I see, you can see it's responsive. Although when I click on it, nothing is happening. Why? Because I have not linked my JavaScript with it. So if I go here and link my JavaScript as well, so I will simply go copy this. In this particular case, I will simply go at the top, and apart from linking my CSS, I will simply go here and let me try to link this JavaScript as well. Now, when I link this, and if I go here, refresh my page, okay, and when I click on this, you can clearly see it's also functional as well. There's interactivity now as well. If I click on it, it opens up again as well. So you get components predefined, pre-created. But as I said again, it's again you have to go there and bring change manually. And the changes that you will do, the time it's going to take, I think tab tak until then you are going to create a wonderful navbar of your own as well. And nowadays, since we use AI tools, it's very easy. It has become very easy for us to create stuff. Right? No one learns about Bootstrap right now. Trust me. Okay, but it is there, so we have to discuss it. So that's what I was saying, that when we talk about docs of the Bootstrap, you can clearly go there and you can simply have click on the components. Okay, I want a navbar. So which type of navbar do you want? Is this the navbar that you want? Copy this code. Is this the navbar that you want? Copy this code. Is this the navbar that you want? Copy this code. Is this the navbar you want? Copy this code. Is this the navbar that you want? Copy this code. And then manually go there and make the change according to what your requirement is. Now, all these class names, navbar, navbar expand large, BG body territory, all these class names are predefined. For each and every single nav item, you have a class name called as nav item. If you want it to have a nav link style, you have to pass nav link style. And so on and so forth. You want a navbar like this, implement this. You want a navbar like this, implement this. You want a navbar like this, implement this. You want a navbar like this, implement this, and so on and so forth. The idea is that there are already components created. All you need to do is you need to find that component. You need pagination. Let's suppose I need pagination. I will simply go here, copy this particular code, go inside my code here inside the application which I'm working on. And below this H1, I will simply go and paste this code. Since my Bootstrap is all linked over there, you can clearly see proper navigation here. It's also functional as well if you see. Not the entirety, of course, because you have to link it where exactly it should take you. But you can clearly see the proper effect because JavaScript actually allows communication as well. So what do we need? What do we need? We need components. We need to see what exactly are we trying to do. And according to that, we will simply go to that particular component over here, find that component. For example, you need a carousel. Now, carousel is simply slider. So slider looking like this. First slide, second slide, third slide, fourth slide. You have seen this kind of application lot of times in your code. Copy the code over there, simply go inside your application and paste the code like this. But of course, after that, you need to do the change. You need to understand this particular code yourself. Like what does carousel example do? And I wish like it could have been 10, 15 classes, this crash course or a course. I would have taught you all these class names. And you can see there is no image, by the way, available. That's why it's displaying this. But if you link proper image over there, you can see that there's a proper slider over here. One of the most important elements that are used of Bootstrap, if ever used, is buttons. And that's the first thing that I showed you. So buttons over there. So we have primary button like this. If you need a button like the secondary, so BTN primary, secondary, BTN success, BTN danger, BTN warning, BTN info, BTN light, BTN dark, and BTN link. So whenever you need any kind of these buttons in your code, all you need to do is you need to use these particular classes. BTN space, BTN primary. So if I copy this particular code here, and if I go and put it inside my application, since we have our Bootstrap linked, you can clearly see I have the class names as well. Now over here, if you look at this, between this adfer and this particular set of buttons, there's no margin. Now, if you want to go and discuss margin, I might be wrong here. The margin that we have to use over here is called what is the margin? Sorry, adfer. So over here, I will simply go tell it for this particular element, adfer, go and implement M in the direction Y and make it is equals to 3. Now, as soon as I do that, you can clearly see now the margin. So margin with respect to x, sorry, with respect to y axis and 3 rem distance, 3 pixel distance. So I will simply go say 6. When I say 6 over there, all the 6 is not a word. It's 3 to 4, I think, or 9, something like that. You need to check that from the documentation. And in a similar way, I can go for the same answer. I will simply say mx in this right 3. So when I say mx, you can clearly see now there's a proper mx. Now, how do I remember this? Trust me, I am right now, showing you Bootstrap after a year. I have taught Bootstrap 1 year back because it's irrelevant right now. Trust me, it's not relevant. Having a lot of AI tools in the market right now. So if I have to find, hey, how do we implement our margin? So I will simply go search at proper documentation data margin. And over here, if I have to talk about margin, although it has opened up card, so somehow you have to figure out how to deal with the documentation properly. But you can go here to helpers and you can search simply. You can find your spacing over here. You can simply find shadows over here. You can find a lot of XYZ things over here. For example, if I go and say spacing, with respect to spacing, now you can see margin padding. So now we can clearly see whenever you need to implement a margin for classes that set the margin. P is what you need to write for classes that to set margin. Then over there, you can write T, B, and all these things 0, 1, 2, 3, 5. So until 5, you can simply use. Where 1 is 0.25, I think, of REM, zero point 0.5 of REM, 1.5, 3 times this, and auto is simply to set margin auto. Right? So you need to understand that it's all implemented, and all we are using here, we are using the same notations again and again, again and again, again and again. So in this particular element, if I need padding, so P, and then you need to find what is the other thing that we have. So P, 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 then what do we have? P, P, P. Let me try to find. So we have spacer like margin, this still margin over there. Why is the padding? Why is the padding? Why is the padding? So px. So it should be px and let's say 5. And now when I implement px5, is there any padding? So there's a padding from here, but in an x direction. Of course, there's a padding. So now in a similar way, if I go right py5, as soon as I do that, now you can see paddings as well. No, padding is not there, which means padding has some other class. Sorry, 6. Py5 will work. Now it works. So class names is there. And it makes my things very easy sometimes. Because sometimes, see, when we create a web application, there are some limited properties that we use in most of the times. Like we will use margin, we will use padding, we will use border. These properties we might use very often. So at least these class names we can remember in our Bootstrap case to implement it in a proper way. So if I talk about border, so when I talk about border, see border top, border and border. So if this is my border from all sides, this is my border top only, border right, end only, border bottom only, border start only. You can see at start there's a line. Now if you want to control it in a better way, so remove borders, it's 0, there's no border. Border top 0, top side I don't have border, and rest I have. Border end 0, end side I don't have, rest of the sides I have. Border bottom 0, bottom side I don't have, rest of the times I have. And start I don't have, border rest sides I have. Now if you want colorful borders, you can see this is border, primary, border, primary, subline, so on and so forth. So these many colors you have already. Do you have any other color? No, you have to properly design for that. So you want to have MB4, so MB4 is like this. And in a similar way, if I talk about why is it? So P3, BG, BG, BG10. So border info, border start 0, border rounded end. So you can see rounded end over here. So it's all about class names that we implement inside our application that we have, right? I hope this makes sense. Am I clear, guys? Give me a quick yes or no in the chat. Am I clear? Does it make sense? Done? So what do we need to do now? What we need to simply go on the internet, import the border, and if you want to make it circle, so for circle, see this is what we have. Rounded start, rounded circle. So rounded circle will make the circle like this. Rounded start will make start rounded. Rounded pin. So now even with respect to radius as well, there are proper border, classes. And all you need to do is with that elements, you need to simply use this particular classes. So rounded, rounded top, rounded end, rounded bottom, rounded start, rounded circle, rounded pill, and so on and so forth. Now, if you want to implement a CSS on your own, that will make it look like a pill. You have to do some effort over there. You have to put some effort. But when you have to create something like that, you automatically know that there's a rounded pill class. I will use simply that, and it's very easy for me. And it actually is, but only if you use it very often. Like Bootstrap will play a very important role. Bootstrap will make your things very easy, but only under one condition: when you use it more often, when you get used to using these class names. If you are not using this Bootstrap, if you are just learning it for, for one or two projects, and using it only for one or two projects, it won't make any difference. When you use it for 5 to 10, when you use it for years, then automatically you create a website, you don't even go and implement style for a second. You simply create code and write class names, write class names, write class names. And there are a lot of Bootstrap developers who does that, right? So we'll take a break of 10 minutes. Exactly at 9:15, we're going to see one of the very important things related to Bootstrap called as grid system, which we will implement ourselves, and we will understand to some extent the responsiveness with respect to grid system. And that's what our today's class agenda was actually. So exactly at 9:16, we are going to resume our session. I hope that makes sense. Okay. 9:16. Hey guys, hi everyone, welcome back. I hope I'm audible. Am I? Hello guys, hi everyone. Perfect. I guess we can start with this session. Okay. Now you have understood, from I would not say completely, but in a superficial way, what Bootstrap like is, what it actually says. Simply use me as the CSS framework, and I already have a lot of CSS created within me. Here's a file. Here's a file. Allow me a second, guys. Allow me a second. Okay, hey guys, hi. So I was saying that whenever we talk about our, allow me again a second. I'm so sorry. Hey guys, I'm so sorry. Okay, let's start again. So I was saying that whenever we talk about a grid, it says that there are a lot of components. I already have done a lot of work. So here, use me as a CSS framework. You don't have to worry about the CSS too much. Just to see what you are trying to create and create it. Yes, there are some limited css that we have to implement, but of course we can implement and we can update the css on our own as well. Like for example, if I want to update this particular css, can't I simply go here and then tell it, hey, here fit what this container sm, implement this property, add this property, so we can update the properties, we can target the same style as well. But it gives us the already created style, so it is an advantage over there. Like imagine that you have to build a navbar, how much time would it take? You have to make it responsive, how much time would it take? You have to think about media queries, you have to think about device, you have to think about viewport, you have to think about a lot of things, and Bootstrap resolves that. Now one of the most used set of classes of Bootstrap is grid system. So I will simply go create a new file over there with the name of Bootstrap grid.html. Now what does it say? It says that simply I'm going to allow you to create a grid system in which it's simply a 12 column layout. Okay, 12 column layout that I actually have. Now, when I say 12 column layout, it means this is what it means. Let me try to go here. Okay. So let me go here to the notes again, Adfer workspace. And quickly, come on. Okay, in the meantime, I do have my whiteboard open, right? Okay, perfect, it works. So usually it does not take this much of time, but I don't know why is it taking this much of time today. Okay, now look at this. This is what Bootstrap grid system says. And it is one of the best things that Bootstrap has. Trust me, if I ever has to use anything from Bootstrap, this is what I'm going to use. It says that I have a proper container, right? Grid is a property for proper container, in which I will simply go and I will simply arrange my elements, right? Now, grid says that in a single row, you can arrange 12 items. So 12 column layout, in which I will simply divide my page into equal sections. And then, since it's a 12 column layout, you can make it much more responsive. So there are 12 lines. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can simply draw those lines. So 12 column layout that we have. So one column, then in a similar way, 12, 2, 3, 4, 5, 12 column. To make it better, to make it betterly understand over there, what I will do is I will simply go and create a simple web application in which I will simply go and let's talk about the basic classes that we actually have. So first class that we have is container. So what does container over there do? Container is a class. Simply, it is a wrapper that holds the grid layout. Remember when I taught you my grid, I also use containers there. And trust me, that's the container class that I'm using everywhere. It is because of the grid. Because I was using grid at one point very much. So Container simply is a wrapper. It is a main wrapper for my grid layout inside Bootstrap. After that, I have to define in this particular grid, I have to define rows. How many rows do I have? So for that, I will simply go say div dot, and in this div, I will simply go give it row class like this. Now, when we talk about row, for example, if I talk about any kind of row, we have to define how many columns does this row contain, yes or no? So this is my main container, which is a main parent. Over here, this is my row, which will simply define main row. How many rows do we have? Then in that particular case, I have to define how many columns do we have. So I will simply go div dot. Then over there, I have to use a class which is call. Call. Call defines the individual column inside that row. So over here, I will simply write my data point one, which is column one. In a similar way, how many columns do we have? I will simply go right over there two. Then I will simply go right three over there. If I try to go live with this particular thing over here, you should be able to see a proper, column one, column two, column three over here. But it's not in the grid layout. Can anyone tell me why is it not in the grid layout? Why is it not in a single row? Anyone? Anyone, guys? Why is it not a single row? Why is that, guys? Because I have not linked my Bootstrap with it. So we have to link our Bootstrap. So I must implement these two lines over there, although only one as well. Why? Because we are talking about CSS, not our JavaScript. So I can simply copy this and I can simply go here and paste it. Now, when I implement it, you can clearly see what it did is it simply created a row. And if I simply go here, Control C, Control V here as well, you can clearly see I am able to create different rows. So this is how easy it is to create a grid layout when we talk about Bootstrap. So we define our row with the row class, we define our grid layout with the, the grid parent with the container, and then each column with the call. Now, if I go here, Control C, Control V, Control V, Control V, Control V, Control V like this, we can clearly see in this particular case, it's proper responsive. You can see it's proper responsive. The column is proper responsive over here, right? Sir, you said 12, grid layout over there. What does that mean? I will talk about that in a second. What 12 grid column mean? But I hope that this is completely clear, like what we mean by grid layout because of, with help of this container and row and call. Am I clear? Done? Very good. Now moving a little bit forward. Now what do we need is, we need to understand over there, I have to understand the column 12 wala part. What does that mean? I have different widths. See, the idea internal, eventually is always and always. Let's suppose in this particular case, in my first row, I will simply have 5 columns. So 4 and 5. Even let's say 6. 5 and then let's say 6. Please try to understand this particular thing. 6. So if I try to go here, you can clearly see 6 columns in a single row. Very good. But if I reduce the size over there, when I reduce the size, what we would want, don't you think we would want only 2 items in a single row? Then it should simply create more rows, which means responsive depending on what the width of the device is, right? We want it to be proper responsive. Even leave these 2 rows over here. Let's leave these 2 rows. Let's talk about only 1 row to properly understand it. If I simply go say Control C, Control V, let me simply go say 7. So right now we can see 7. And if I simply go here, Control C, Control V, Control V, Control V, Control V, Control V. Let me simply go here, say 8, say 9, say 10, say 11, say 12 over here, right? If I try to go here in this application, we can clearly see this is a 12 column structure over there, right? You can completely visualize it. It's a 12 column structure. And you can clearly see equal columns. Like it gives you complete feel 12 column structure. But that's not what I'm here for, honestly. But now, if I am displaying in my laptop 12 columns in a single row, if I'm opening in tab, don't you think there should be 6 columns only? If I open in mobile phone, there should be only 2 columns. So it has to be depending on the device over there. I want to control this grid layout. That's what we want to understand over there. Okay. And when I say 12 structure, this is what exactly I mean. This is 1 by 1. I have created 12 over there, but let me remove this. Let me simply go and let me have only 3. in front of each column, I can write a number. And in a row, that number can be added to 12 only. It cannot be more than 12. I can simply say call 3. Call 3. This is going to be call 6. Or let's say call 2, call 4, call 6. What does it mean? It means this row has a 12 structure over there. I simply wanted to make sure the first column will take 2, 1 divided by 12th of that width. Sorry, 2 divided by 12th of that width. This will take 4 divided by 12th of that width, 6 divided by 12th of that width. So this is what we mean by 12 structure. Now in this case, if I simply go say Control C, Control V, it's starting in the new row. And you can clearly see that. So this is my first only row. I have only one row over there. And it's not like even if I'm increasing the space over there, you can see column 3 is not trying to adjust itself in the top row. Absolutely not. Let me give it some background color. Let me give it some BG over there. So for this row, I will simply give it BG primary. Done. You can visualize it. And over there for this, I will simply give it some, let's say border. What was the border class, guys? Anyone border class was? Over here. So we had border class as border. Now I want something good. Okay, let's have this one. Border and then border danger. So let me simply have border and then border danger. So there's a danger. So let me try to copy this out and let me try to paste it here. Let me try to copy this, paste this, copy this, paste this. Okay. Now, as soon as I do that, if I go to my application here, we can clearly visualize our borders as well. Done. Now, if I want a proper margin over there, what do I need to do? Margin in which direction? In X direction, in Y direction, sorry. Margin MV3 and also margin MX3 as well. So let me copy the same things, Control C, and let me put Control V. Although not 3, let's say 2 only. 2 should be good. 2 should be good. So let me simply copy the same thing and let me put it everywhere. Put it here, put it here, put it here. So now we can clearly see the mark. Now, as soon as there's one another thing happened here. As soon as I implemented margin, my columns were divided into proper 12. But when we implement margin, don't you think it also adds up in the same width? Of course, yes. Since it adds up in the same width over there, what's happening over here? Now it's going to take and make sure that the element is not going to fit in the same row. And that's why it shifted this to another. But if I make it maybe call 5, it will be in the same row. So let's implement call 4, 4, 4, 2. It is now working. So you can see in this, it's properly working. If I remove MX2 here, and then if I remove MX2 here, in the X direction, I don't need margin. I need only in the Y direction. So MY2 here. And let me remove this as well. And let me remove this as well. Now, as soon as I do that, even if I now write 6 here, it will still be in the same row. And you can clearly visualize that, right? So I hope this makes complete sense. Am I clear? This is what we mean by 12 grid layout, 12 column layout. That in a single row over there, the maximum, the lines that I have is 12. I cannot have more than that. As soon as it exceeds that, it will create a new row. And you can clearly see that. I hope this makes sense. Am I clear? Am I clear, guys? Give me a quick yes or no in the chat. Done? Perfect. Now over there, in this case, let me simply go say, let me copy this. This much I'm going to copy. Okay, Control C, Control V. Control Z, and let me get my 12 items back. 12 items back. I want to get 12 items. Now, in this case, there are 12 items. And do we all agree when I talk about my laptop, all these 12 items can adjust themselves? Do we all agree with that? They can adjust themselves, right? Or maybe instead of saying they can adjust, let's create a scenario. I want simply that when my screen is large, at that point of time, in each row, maximum items can be 6. When it is tab, maximum items can be 4. When it's mobile phone, maximum items can be 2. So that's what I want to do. Now, how do we do that? With respect to each column over there, we can actually write screen size as well. My Bootstrap makes responsiveness very simple. I wanted to make sure that in my laptop width, when my screen is large, so I use LG with it. So call hyphen LG when it is LG. At that point of time, this column over there, this column should take 2 of the 12th width. In a similar way, this column should take 2 of the 12th width. And I have to put the border as well. So let me put the border. And let me put the border. In a similar way, call LG and what? 2. Then over there, call LG. And then let me simply copy it and paste it everywhere. So I'm simply going to say copy it and let me try to paste it. Paste here, 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 like this, paste here and paste here. Now, according to this, can you guys tell me how many items can actually adjust themselves in a single row? How many items? 6. Because 12 divided by 2 is 6. So in large screen over there, I am telling it that each call should take 2 of the 12th width. So in large screen, how many items I'm going to have? 6. Yes or no? Do we all agree with that? Yes or no? Give me yes or no. Now, what about medium? What about medium screens? Medium screens means where the width is greater than 768 pixel. Large means large. Where the screen size is greater than 992. That's what large means. Now for medium, I will simply go here. Call. For this call. Or let me simply go here. Space. Although not space, let me go. Control Shift Alt. And let me select all of these at one go. Then I will put a space. For all these items, simply go say call. And then simply say for my medium screen, implement 4. What does it mean, guys? What does it mean? Can anyone tell me in the chat what does this mean? It means for all those devices where the screen size medium greater than 768 pixel in a single row, maximum 3 items can be there because 12 divided by 4 is 3. So each item in a single row will take 4 of the 12th width. In a similar way, I will simply go say call my SM, which will simply be small. And let me simply go say 2. What does 2 mean? That in each mobile phone width, small means screen size greater than 576 pixel. When width is greater than 576 pixel, in that particular case, I would want you that each row will contain 6 items. Each item will be 2 of the 12th width having. So this is what I'm going to call SM2. So now if I go here, you can see according to the code, large is 2. So 2 divided by 16 is 2 divided by 12 is 6. So 6 items in a single row. But now if I go here and if I try to go to inspect, and as soon as I go to inspect, let me try to see. In this case, what's my screen size? So you can see now between this 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, medium. What is for medium? Medium is 4. 4 divided by 12 is 3. So you can see for medium is 3. And for my smaller than this, so in a single row over there, why is it 6? So SM2. Sorry, it should not be SM2, it should be SM4. My mistake. Not 4, 6. SM6. SM6 means that in each row there should be 2 items only, and there are 2 items now. Now, don't you think it has made my life easy when we talk about responsiveness with respect to grids? Yes or no? You can see that, you can look at it properly, you can understand that when I create a proper grid system over there and I attach these classes, large, medium, and small over there, it simply means that my life is easy now. Why? Because I am able to implement responses in an easier way. And when I say easier way, this is what I mean. That now we can clearly visualize over there with respect to our device screens. So over there, with respect to this, it's only taking 1, it's taking 2, it's taking now C3, and then finally at the end over there, when it's greater than 992, in that particular case, 6 items. If I go here, let me simply do something like this. I will simply say over here, Control Shift Alt, then arrow down, and let me replace all these with 3. Then go here and let me simply say Control Shift All, select all of these and replace this with, let's say, for medium, it's going to be equals to, let's say 4. Let's keep 4 only. Let's not change it. For small over there, let me simply go Control Shift Alt over there. What happened? What happened? What happened? Okay, Control Shift Alt over there. Let me select these over here and let me simply say for small, I would simply want 12. Can you guys tell me what it means? Let me select 6 here. 6. What does it mean? It means for larger screens over there, for larger screens, 4 items can reach. 4 items can take place in a single row. Sorry. For medium, 2 items can take place in a single row. For small screens, only 1 item. So 4, 2, 1. So you can see over here, 4 in the large screen. If I go in the inspect over there, so once I go in the inspect, you can clearly see as soon as I decrease 2, and then as soon as I decrease it more, only 1. So 4, 2, 1. This is what we mean by grid layout over there in terms of my 12 column layout. 12 column layout. Now, of course, over here, let's suppose now in this particular case, I want to implement some other classes with respect to grid. For example, those properties, justify content and all of those things. Of course, you can do that. You can implement justify content. For a row over there, you can simply go and tell it, hey, for this row, I want to implement justify content. I might be wrong with this class, but this is what I think. So justify content over there like this. Now, when we say justify content, what is the value that I want to have? Space between space around center. So I will simply go say center. Like this. Now, of course, there won't be any change. The reason is because there's not enough width. So what do you need to do is you need to give it enough width over there. So what I will do is I will simply go to teach you these classes. I will take a better example because over here we don't have all this, but let me do one thing. Let me go here. Let me create a div. In this div, I will simply give it a class name container. Okay. And in this div, I will simply go give a div with a class row. Then for this, I will simply give it same class justify content and then center over there like this. And in a similar way, if I have to implement align items, I will simply go say align, then items over there. Then I have to align items, let's say center as well. I want to center a div. That's what I want to do, nothing else. So justify content, center, align item, center, and let me click enter. Now, as soon as I do that, you can clearly see if I try to zoom it out, I have a div over there with row, justify content, center, align item, center class, right? But since I have to make sure that they are properly visible, I will go implement inline style. Now, when I implement inline style, I want to give it height, width, it will take 100%, but height, let's suppose 200, 300 pixel. Let's say 300 pixel over there like this. Done. After that, I will simply go, let me give it a background color as well. So background color is BG primary. Done. So now it should be completely 100%. See, now you can, when I implement container, container takes this much off, like it puts it to the center, like this much. This one other class, I might be wrong. I say achanak yaad pad rahe hain. This fluid, it means now don't make it like this. Absolutely, it works. So when you need a center like div like this, you can use container. But if you don't want it like that, still want a grid properties, you can implement container fluid. But I hope the difference is quite clear. Like, what is the difference between container fluid, right? Yes or no? Hana? You understood the difference between container and container fluid? Give me yes or no? Perfect. Now over there, I will simply go say div. Now I have to create a column. What is the class for column? What is the class for column? Call. And then I will tell it simply how much width I want it to take. 6 of the total, right? And then I want to give it some color. Let's say BG danger. This is danger, okay? And maybe in this, I want to align, add some text. To make text, what is the class that we use? I think text, then color, any color. So text over there, let's say it is text red or text white. So I think this is the class name that we actually have. Then I want to, okay, let's implement this much at least at this point of time. Now we can clearly see that don't have any text over there. But since I have implemented justify content as center, align item as a center, which means if whatever text I will add, it should be over at the center. So now if I simply go here, write Adfar Rashid. Now as soon as I write that, we should be able to see that at center, and we can clearly see that. If we even want to make this text center of its own div, in that particular case, if I remember correctly, it is text center. Text align center or text center actually over here. See, you need to understand all the properties. But see, if you want to make sure now that this will make complete sense to you, you must be able to understand what those concepts in the real CSS is. Like, I knew it's going to be justify content center because of course they won't change it apart from that. Align item center, what's it going to do? I know that. Since I know what it's going to do, that's why I did it. So this is what we mean by Bootstrap. So with the help of Bootstrap, I can implement all these class names. And if I don't remember the class name, there's a documentation. I can go to the documentation and implement it properly however I want. I hope this makes complete sense. Am I clear? Do we have any questions? Give me a yes or no in the chat, and then we will wind up our class. So with this, we have completed our Bootstrap. We have completed our CSS. We have completed our JavaScript. Now in the next class, we are supposed to start our JavaScript. We have completed our HTML and CSS. And next session, we'll start our JavaScript. So do not miss the first few sessions because we're going to complete basics, and basics are very important. Okay, give me the feedback of today's session, then we will close. Let me push the code to the repo. Git dot git add dot git commit -m, and then we have today's date as 25/03/2025. So git push origin master. So you can find all the code in the master branch of the Git repository, which is, let's see, what's the Git repository that we have? Come on. I hope everyone has Git repo link, right? So Git repository name is, why is it taking this much of time? Okay, there's a Bootstrap, actually Bootstrap folder. So it is pgp-march.git. So this is the link of your GitHub, okay? So if you want me to paste it in the chat as well, I can do that. So this is the GitHub link. Adfar 136, Adfar 136 like this, and then, sorry, it's already there. So this is the link, Adfar 136 pgp-march.git. So you can find all the Git code there. I hope you have enjoyed the session. Make sure that you will connect in the next session as well, especially the first 2-3 sessions of JavaScript. Okay. So see you there. Thank you so much. Take care of yourself. Good night. Bye-bye.